When it comes time to flying, certain names come to mind: Icarus, Da Vinci, Tom Cruise, and Top Gun. And of course, the American R brothers, credited with the world's first successful flight in 1903 with a motorized aircraft over a windswept beach in North Carolina. But more than 1,000 years before, there was a Berber Andalusian Muslim named Abbas ibn Firnas who jumped off a cliff in Yemen with a bamboo frame silk and bird feathers and became the first man to fly. And yes, this is a known fact, not cute myth. He has a crater on the moon named after him, and the world of aviation was just one realm he delved into. He soared over many. Abbas ibn Firnas, a name if used frequently, will take us beyond time. He was born in the 9th century in the year 810 in a place known as Al-Andalus, or present-day Rundá in Spain. He was of ethnic North African Berber descent, and his name is derived from the word Ethernes, a common name in Morocco and Algeria today. Little is known about his childhood, but it is said he was extremely inquisitive and loved opening things up and putting them back together. A kid who loved using his hands. He loved being outdoors and enthusiastic about participating in community events. He lived most of his adult life in the city of Cordoba, located within the Greater Emirate of Cordoba that covers part of modern-day Gibraltar, Morocco, Portugal, and Spain. At the time, the city was the richest and most influential in Andalusia, a major learning hub across the Islamic world. At the time, revered as one of the two major cultural centers of Islamic art and science, alongside Baghdad. Ibn Firnas became a jack of all trades. He received an extensive education in many disciplines, including medicine and astrology, but was more inclined towards engineering and developing his own inventions. He was also a classical music lover and engrossed in Arabic poetry. With all this intrigue in his life, he became a polymath, an inventor, engineer, aviator, physician, Arabic poet, and Andalusian musician, loaded with his compatriots. Now let us start with how he achieved what he is most renowned for, flying. In 875, and at the age of nearly 70 years old, he built his own flying machine out of a bamboo frame covered with silk cloth and had an actual eagle feathers on it. He jumped off a cliff in Jebel al-Ras Hills in Yemen to showcase his invention. What a madman, said 70 years old, and eagle feathers. As per witness accounts, he achieved the flight of 10 minutes by flapping his wings up and down. But the problem was, he hadn't quite worked the landing and he hit the ground hard, leading to serious injuries. He lived for another 12 years, despite the fall, and continued to study aeronautics and to figure out the shortcomings of his landing. He concluded that apart from the wings, tail was necessary to act as rudder to control flight, and left designs for many new machines, even though he was not able to ever demonstrate a flight. Again, now before we discuss the legacy and inspirations he left behind, it's worth noting what else he achieved in his lifetime. His study of astronomy led him to design a mechanized planetarium that had revolving planets moving in relation to each other. His experiment with crystal quartz and sand led him to create transparent glass and laid the foundation for famous Andalusian water glasses still on sale today. He wasn't done with glass, though he studied its magnifying properties, designing lenses for correcting eyesight. That's right, for the lenses you are using right now. He designed a water clock known as al-Mukta for keeping track of time, which is understandable because he did so much, probably didn't have time. He also wrote many books on mathematics, physics, astronomy, and engineering that were taught in the University of Al-Andalus. In 1979, the Working Group for Planetary System recognized his work and named the crater on the moon in his honor. Baghdad, Iraq, named their airport after him, and there is a bridge over the Guadalquivir River in Cordoba also bearing his name. His work on aeronautics inspired the likes of Steven, and the relationship he found between wings and the tail helped the Wright brothers. But two things have stood out beyond his genius. The first was his love for music that drove him to become one of the first teachers in Cordoba's famous school of music, run by one of his idols, the Iraqi musician Ziryab. Vibes are always important, even for a genius. The second and most important, in despite of his absence of an autobiography, and though little known about him, his personal life, one thing for sure, the man was persistent. He fell during his flight and got seriously injured, but he still managed to live until a ripe old age, dying in 887. For those last 12 years, he did not give up. He didn't feel like he had done enough. Instead, he moved away from the physical stuff to writing things down on paper, to improving his work and leaving behind an abundance of brilliance for others to benefit from.
Dear viewers, welcome to a new episode of Names from the Past. One of the most fascinating dreams in human history is flying. When we talk about flight, since its inception, the first human being to attempt to fly comes to mind. We could say that flight started as an idea, then became a reality that people witness today. The concept of plane was founded based on a human trying to fly with wings. Humanity later was able to achieve flight with planes above the clouds. It was based on an idea of a man that lived ages ago in Al-Andalus. His name is Abbas ibn فرناس, who experimented forms of flight in Al-Andalus.
People have a common misconception that the first pioneers who attempted to fly were the Wright brothers, but that's far from the truth. In fact, it was the amazing Abbas bin Firnas who paved the way with his love and attention towards aerodynamics to having us mere mortals fly. Born as Abu al-Qasim Abbas ibn Firnas ibn Wardas al-Tukurini, or in the West as Armen Firman, was an Amazigh Andalusian who descended from a lineage of ancient people, notably born in Cordoba, which happens to be an area named here in Kuwait. You probably heard it as Cordoba.
أبو القاسم عباس بن ورداس التركماني الأندلسي. He was an Andalusian inventor, philosopher, and poet. He was born in Cordoba, center of knowledge and science. He lived during the ruling eras of Umayyad caliphs Al-Hakam al-Awwal, Abd al-Rahman al-Thani, and Muhammad al-Awwal in the 9th century. He became a famous poet in the Umayyad hall in Cordoba. He was a famous Muslim scientist that studied mathematics, physics, and astronomy. He was known for his flight experiments and being the first to attempt so. Abbas ibn Firnas was raised and taught in Cordoba. He studied the Holy Quran and principles of Sharia to join the Great Mosque of Cordoba to hone his knowledge. He later focused on debates, discussions, speeches, and dialogues in seminars that centered around language, poetry, and literature.
It is known that Ibn Firnas was the first to invent the al-mikata. It is a kind of water clock to tell time. He was also known for inventing geometrical tools like al-mankala, that's the protractor, which is used to calculate time. He created a lot of specific scientific tools. He invented a special device similar to the astrolabe that reflected the sun, the moon, and the stars' motions in the universe. It was known as armillary sphere. He was behind the concept of having a planetarium above house roof, putting planets and stars on it to make it look like a sky. He also explained natural phenomena like lightning, storms, and rain. The planetarium became a hotspot for all people. Ibn Firnas also was the first to manufacture glass from sand and stone.
By 1917, Albert Einstein had explained the relationship between space and time, but that year he designed a flawed airplane wing. His attempt was based on an incomplete theory flight, indeed insufficient and inaccurate explanation still circulates today. So, where did Einstein go wrong? And how do planes fly, though we don't always think of this? Air is a fluid medium. It's just less dense than liquids, like water, that are lighter than air, are buoyant within it, while heavier objects require an upward force called lift to stay off for planes. This force is mostly generated by the wings. One especially pervasive false description of lift is the longer path or equal transit time explanation. It states that air molecules traveling over the top a curved wing cover a longer distance. Those traveling underneath for the air molecules above to reach the wing's trailing edge in the same instance as those that split off and went below air must travel faster above, creating a pocket of lower pressure that lifts the plane. This explanation has been thoroughly debunked. Air molecules flowing above and below the wing don't need to meet back up in reality. The air is traveling above reaches of the wing's trailing edge much faster than the air beneath. To get a sense of how it lifts is actually generated, let's simulate an airplane wing in motion as it moves forward. The wing affects the movement of the air around it. Air meets the wing. Solid surface, a thin layer sticks to the wing. This layer pulls the surrounding air with its air splits into pathways above and below the wing, following the wing's contour. As the air that's rooted above makes its way around the nose of the wing, it experiences centripetal acceleration, the force you also feel in a sharply turning car. The air above therefore gathers more speed than the air traveling below. That increased speed is coupled with a decrease in pressure above the wing, which pulls even more air across the wing's upper surface. The air flowing across the lower surface, meanwhile, experiences less a change in dilatation and speed. Pressure across the wing's lower surface is thus higher than the one above the upper surface. This pressure difference results in the upwards force that lifts it faster. The plane travels, the greater the pressure difference and the greater the force. Once it overcomes the downward force of gravity, the plane takes off. Air flows smoothly around curved wings, but a wing's curvature is not the cause of lift. In fact, a flat wing that's tilted upwards, as long as the air bends around it, contributing to and reinforcing the pressure difference. Meanwhile, having a wing that's too curved or steeply angled L can be disastrous. The airflow above may detach and the wing become turbulent. This is probably what happened with Einstein's wing designs, nicknamed the cat's back, by increasing the wing's curvature. Einstein thought it would generate more lift, but one test pilot reported that the plane wobbled like a pregnant duck in flight. Our explanation is still a simplified description of this nuanced, complex process. Other factors like the air that's flowing meters beyond the wing's surface being swept away, then down, as well as air vortex formed its wings tips, all influence lift. And while experts agree that the pressure difference generates left their explanations for how they vary. Some might emphasize the air's behavior and the wing's surface, others upwards forces created as the air is deflected downwards. However, there's no controversy when it comes to the math engineers use. A set of formulas called the Navier-Stokes equations that precisely model air flows around the wing and details how lift is generated more than a century after Eisenstein's foray into aeronautics. It retains its reputation as a confounding concept, but when it feels like it's going to come crashing down, remember just physics of fluid in motion.
Yes, many places here in Kuwait give homage towards these enlightened pioneers and the areas where they hail from to enhance knowledge and give thanks towards. Bin Firnas had also made various contributions in the field of astronomy and engineering. He constructed a device in which indicated the motion of the planets and stars in the universe. In addition, Abbas bin فرناس came up with a procedure to manufacture colorless glass and made magnifying lenses for reading, which were known as reading stones.
Abbas ibn Firnas was known for his sharp mind. For Andalusia writers and poets, linguists often attend his sessions that focused on grammar and language. He often taught them linguistics in detail and simplify other fields like rhetoric, eloquence, and language. Ibn Firnas was also a famous poet who mastered grammar. He was a leading figure in astronomy and skilled in medicine, an inventor in many fields, and excelled in chemistry and mathematics. He was good at connecting different fields of science together, benefiting from the shared knowledge in his studies and lectures. His studies in chemistry helped him a lot in manufacturing glass and practical applications in pharmaceutics, medicine, and aviation. He was nicknamed the Wise Man of Al-Andalus. Abbas ibn Firnas studied medicine and pharmaceutics in depth. It helped him in diagnosing diseases and understanding their symptoms. Researching how to prevent such diseases, for prevention is better than a cure. He also studied stones, plants, and herbs' curative features in medicine. In pursuit of knowledge, he looks for doctors and pharmacists to discuss matters related to medicine, in an attempt to avoid side effects and hazards of medications. Abbas ibn Firnas was appointed as a doctor by Umayyad rulers for their castles. He was nominated by a group of excellent doctors at the time.
7 centuries after the death of Ben Firnas, the Algerian historian Ahmed al-Maqari wrote a description of Ben Firnas himself that included the following. Among other very curious experiments which he made, one is his trying to fly. He covered himself with feathers for a purpose, attached a couple of wings to his body, and, getting on an eminence, flung himself down into the air, when, according to the testimony of several trustworthy writers who witnessed the performance, he flew a considerable distance, as if he had been a bird.
He showed a great deal of wisdom in giving medical instructions to prevent diseases. He was also inspecting royal family food to prevent sickness. Abbas ibn Firnas is considered a pioneer in aviation. He was the first to attempt flight and experimented in forms of flight. Through many experiments, he studied the weight of body and its resistance to air under air pressure effects. One day, Abbas ibn Firnas covered himself with feathers and made wings from silk. He announced to the public that he wanted to fly. People have gathered to witness this unique attempt for the human bird that flied across the skies of Cordoba. Ibn Firnas climbed up a hill with his silk contraption, moving his wings and jumping in the air. He flew a decent distance through the air while being witnessed by the people in awe. However, he had difficulty landing, which led to his fall and getting minor fractures.
legacy alive, in 1973, a statue of bin Firnas by the sculptor Badri al-Samari was installed in Iraq. And in 2011, one of the bridges going over the Guadalquivir River in Spain was named the Abbas ibn Firnas Bridge. And a British one-plane airline, فرناس Airways, was also named after him. All in all, his legacy is as eternal as his knowledge, in which we are forever in his debt and gratitude.
Abbas ibn Firnas was ahead of the brilliant minds of 20th century for more than 10 centuries ago. His amazing inventions and experiments are considered a source of pride and joy for Muslims. He had an adventurous spirit that made him passionate about flying like birds up in the air. I hope that you liked our episode. We will meet again with a new figure in the next episode. Thank you.